Okay, today is the 30th of July, and we are on the Kassapa Samyutta. We come to Sutta 16.4 at Savatthi. Buddha said, monks, what do you think? What kind of monk is worthy to be a visitor of families? And what kind of monk is not worthy to be a visitor of families? Humble Sir, our teachings are rooted in the Blessed One. And the Blessed One said, monks, a monk might approach families with the thought, may they give to me, not hold back. May they give me much, not a little. May they give me fine things, not shabby things. May they give me promptly, not slowly. May they give me considerately, not casually. When a monk approaches families with such a thought, if they do not give, he thereby becomes hurt. On that account, he experiences pain and displeasure. If they give little rather than much, or if they give shabby things rather than fine things, or if they give slowly rather than promptly, or if they give casually rather than considerately, he thereby becomes hurt. On that account, he experiences pain and displeasure. Such a monk is not worthy to be a visitor of families. Monks, a monk may approach families with the thought, when among others' families, how could I possibly think, may they give to me, not hold back. May they give me respectfully, not casually, etc. When a monk approaches families with such a thought, if they do not give, or if they give gradually, etc., he does not thereby become hurt. He does not on that account experience pain and displeasure. Such a monk is worthy to be a visitor of families. Monks, Kassapa approaches families with such a thought. When among others' families, how could I possibly think, may they give to me, not hold back, may they give respectfully, etc. If they do not give, or if they give casually, etc., he does not thereby become hurt. He does not on that account experience pain and displeasure. Monks, I will exhort you by the example of Kassapa, or one who is similar to Kassapa. Being exhorted, you should practice accordingly. It's the end of the sutta. You see here, the Buddha is quite detailed in his teaching. He thinks like this. Most people would not think about it. The Buddha is very particular that the Sangha has a good reputation. So even small details like this, he teaches the monks that when they go and beg for their food also, what they think is important. If they have a greedy thought, if they have an arrogant thought, then they may become hurt when they should not. So Buddha is teaching them to practice to the finest details. The next sutta, 16.5. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the spiritual sanctuary. Then the Venerable Mahakassapa approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him and sat down to one side. The Blessed One then said to him, you are old now, Kassapa, and those worn out hempen rag robes must be burdensome for you. Therefore you should wear robes offered by householders, Kassapa, accept meals on invitation, and dwell close to me. Let's stop here for a moment. This Venerable Mahakassapa, and the Buddha, I think, was about 80 years old. I think Venerable Mahakassapa, according to some books, was about 120 years old or something like that. He was much older than the Buddha. And he was very ascetic, even up to the very end, which is quite rare. Normally monks are ascetic in their younger days. Then as they grow older, they tak boleh tahan. Because the ascetic ways are a bit taxing. When your body is old, you find it very difficult to practice some of the ascetic practices, like sleeping in the forest. In my younger days, I also slept in the forest. We just put plastic sheet, put your umbrella. You look for 2 branches to hang your rope. And after that, you put your umbrella. Then your umbrella, the height should be such that the top of the umbrella is just your eye level. For me, about 5 feet. So that when you sit under the umbrella, you just don't knock the top of your head. So you can sit in meditation. and then you want it to be low so that when you lie down to sleep at night, a mosquito net can stretch far. If you put it too high, when you sleep at night, your mosquito net cannot open out. So not only that, your mosquito net, you have to be careful to put it under something under the plastic sheet or under some material, otherwise the snake will crawl inside. So when you are young, you can sleep on the bare floor like this. But after about 45 years old, you will find a bit difficult because after 45 years old, my experience was that body heat becomes much less. So when the wind blows, it goes into your bones. But Mahakassapa, so old, he was still staying in the forest and wearing rag robes, refused to accept offerings of new robes by lay people, and also he only ate his meal from alms round. He refused to go to a house invitation or to a monastery to eat. And then he said, for a long time, Venerable Sir, I have been a forest dweller and have spoken in praise of forest dwelling. I have been an alms food eater and have spoken in praise of eating alms food. I have been a rag robe wearer and have spoken in praise of wearing rag robes. I have been a triple robe user, that means one set only, and have spoken in praise of using the triple robe. I have been of few wishes and have spoken in praise of fewness of wishes. I have been content and have spoken in praise of contentment. I have been secluded and have spoken in praise of solitude. I have been aloof from society and have spoken in praise of aloofness from society. I have been energetic and have spoken in praise of arousing energy. Stop here for a moment. So you see, all these very good practices which not many monks have the willpower to practice. Then the Buddha asked, considering what benefit, Kassapa, have you long been a forest dweller? Have you long been an alms food eater? Have you long been a rag robe wearer, etc., and spoken in praise of them? And then he said, considering two benefits, Venerable Sir, for myself I see a pleasant dwelling in this very life, and I have compassion for later generations, thinking, may those later generations follow my example. For when they hear, the enlightened disciples of the Buddha were for a long time forest dwellers and spoke in praise of forest dwelling. For a long time they have been alms food eaters and spoken in praise of eating alms food. For a long time they have been rag robe wearers, etc., and spoken in praise of these practices. And then they will practice accordingly, and that will lead to their welfare and happiness for a long time. Considering these two benefits, Venerable Sir, I have long been a forest dweller, etc., and have spoken in praise of these ascetic practices. And the Buddha said, good, Kassapa. You are practicing for the welfare and happiness of the multitude, out of compassion for the world, for the good welfare and happiness of devas and humans. Therefore, Kassapa, wear worn-out hempen rag robes, walk for alms, and dwell in the forest. That's the end of the sutta. You see here, the Venerable Kassapa says he sees two benefits of dwelling in the forest and practicing all these ascetic practices. He says, one, he has a pleasant dwelling in this very life. He feels comfortable. This staying in the forest, if you are not used to it, it takes a lot of effort to get used to it, because initially, if a monk stays alone, his mind may be distracted, disturbed by a lot of things, so he may not be used to having nobody to speak to and all that. So it takes some time to get used to it. But once a monk gets used to it, then he likes that type of life. And the second reason, he has compassion for later generations. He's showing this good example so that later generations, when they hear that the enlightened disciples of the Buddha were ascetic practices, were monks who practice ascetic practices, then they will follow this example. In fact, there is another sutta, I've forgotten exactly where the Buddha says the same thing. The Buddha says even after he has become enlightened, he still spends his time in secluded dwellings away from people, either in the forest or in a cave, etc. Just like our great Ajahn Mun. So he says, just because I constantly dwell in the forest, I don't think that I have not become enlightened. He says even after enlightenment or so, he prefers to stay in the forest for two reasons. One is this one, the same reason. The first one, he has a very pleasant dwelling in this very life. And then he gives a amusing example. He says, if he's alone in the forest and he's going to answer call of nature, it's very easy. Anytime he can answer the call of nature, nobody to to embarrass him. And then also he has compassion for later generations, because he wants to set this example for people to see that if you want to become enlightened, you want to walk this path out of samsara, you have to go into seclusion. As the Indian saying goes, the holy path is the path of the alone, to the alone, by the alone. So here I want to quote to you the Mahayana Bodhisattva precepts. I'm familiar with them because I also took the Mahayana Bodhisattva precepts before. So there are these major precepts and the minor precepts. And in the minor precepts, there's one, number 37. This is the Mahayana Vinaya book by the monk Yen Kiet from Bangkok. So the translation is this. It says, a monk who performs a Dutanga practice, living in the forest for religious contemplation, or living or practicing aranyaka, that means seclusion, and stays in a place full of wild animals or in a dangerous locality, commits lahu kapati sin, that means a light offense. So it is in the Mahayana precepts is contradictory to the Buddha's practice. The Buddha says that he himself likes to stay in secluded places and encourages his monks to stay in secluded places. Whereas this Bodhisattva precepts is the opposite, not allowed to practice ascetic practices, not allowed to stay in the forest. So it is for these type of reasons that the Buddha always praised Kassapa, because basically the Buddha is also of the same nature. The Buddha practiced all the ascetic practices until there were practically no more ascetic practice for him to practice. It's only later when he realized that many of them are unbeneficial, that he gave them up. But still, in spite of so many ascetic practices, there are some that the Buddha encouraged. Actually, to many people, they seem ascetic practices, but to the Buddha, it is just the middle path. Eating one meal a day, to the Buddha, is a middle path, because he has practiced not eating anything at all, or eating one grain of rice a day. So to him, it's a middle path, or like using one set of ropes only. Triple ropes means one set of three ropes, the upper rope, the lower rope, and the double layer rope, which we use as a blanket. So that one set is the minimum, and the Buddha says monks should be content with that. So for the Buddha, there is a middle path, but for a lot of people, it seems very ascetic. And then like begging for food. Also, the Buddha encouraged the monks to beg for food, cut the ego, and not to be fussy about food. Whatever we get, we eat. And also give lay people a chance to plant blessings. So, because in the Buddha's teachings, a monk is not allowed to stay alone in the deep forest, because if a monk stays alone in the deep forest, he does not beg for his food. So, it does not give lay people a chance to do merit. Like some of the external ascetics, they stay in the deep forest and they feed themselves on the roots and the leaves of plants and fruits and all that, which the Buddha also tried before. So later he says they can stay in the forest as long as they can come out and beg for their food. The next sutta is 16.7. At Rajagaha in the bamboo grove. Then the Venerable Kassapa approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him and sat down to one side. The Blessed One then said to him, exhort the monks, Kassapa, give them a Dhamma talk. Either I should exhort the monks, Kassapa, or you should. Either I should give them a Dhamma talk, or you should. And Venerable Kassapa said, Venerable Sir, the monks are difficult to admonish now, and they have qualities which make them difficult to admonish. They are impatient and do not accept instruction respectfully. Venerable Sir, for one who has no faith in regard to wholesome states, no sense of shame, no fear of wrongdoing, no energy, and no wisdom, whether day or night comes, only decline is to be expected in regard to wholesome states, not growth. Just as during the dark fortnight, whether day or night comes, The moon declines in color, circularity and luminosity, in diameter and circumference. So too, Venerable Sir, for one who has no faith in wholesome states, no sense of shame, no fear of wrongdoing, no energy and no wisdom, whether day or night comes, only decline is to be expected in regard to wholesome states, not growth. A person without faith, Venerable Sir, this is a case of decline. A person without a sense of shame, this is a case of decline. A person who is unafraid of wrongdoing, who is lazy, unwise, angry, malicious, this is a case of decline. When there are no monks who are exhorters, this is a case of decline. I'll stop here for a moment. So you see, even during the Buddha's time, there were a lot of rotten monks. So when the Buddha asked Rebel Kassapa to teach the monks Dhamma, the Buddha said, either you should teach or I should teach. Which shows that the Buddha considers him. If the Buddha is not around, then he should take the Buddha's place. The Buddha has so much trust in him. But he says the monks now are not like before. They are very difficult to instruct. They are not respectful. They have no sense of shame, no fear of wrongdoing, no diligence, and so they keep declining. Then he continued. Venerable Sir, for one who has faith in regard to wholesome states, a sense of shame, fear of wrongdoing, energy and wisdom, whether day or night comes, only growth is to be expected in regard to wholesome states, not decline. Just as during the bright fortnight. This bright fortnight is in the Chinese calendar is Choyat to Sabmla, the 1st to the 15th day of the lunar calendar, when the sun when the moon waxes, becomes brighter and brighter and brighter. That is the bright fortnight. And the waning fortnight is the other one from the 16th until the 30th day of the lunar calendar, when the moon becomes smaller and smaller, less and less bright. So, just as during the bright fortnight, whether day or night comes, the moon grows in color, circularity and luminosity, in diameter and circumference. So too, Venerable Sir, for one who has faith in wholesome states, a sense of shame, fear of wrongdoing, energy and wisdom, whether day or night comes, only growth is to be expected in regard to wholesome states, not decline. A person with faith, this is a case of non-decline. Persons with a sense of shame, this is a case of non-decline. Person who is afraid of wrongdoing, who is energetic, wise, without anger, without malice, this is a case of non-decline. When there are monks who are exhorters, this is a case of non-decline. Good Kassapa. And then the Buddha repeated the entire statement of the Venerable Kassapa. That's the end of the sutta. So towards the end, he says also that if there are monks who are exhorters, that means if there are monks who teach the Dhamma, this is a case of non-decline. That means it's a case of progress. So when no monks teach the Dhamma, then the Dhamma will decline. So it's interesting to see here, even when the Buddha was alive and so many Arahants were alive, could read the monks' minds and all that, still you have a lot of rotten eggs among the monks. 16.8 at Rajagaha in the bamboo grove. Then the Venerable Kassapa approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him and sat down to one side. The Blessed One then said to him, exhort the monks, Kassapa, give them a Dhamma talk. Either I should exhort the monks, Kassapa, or you should. Either I should give them a Dhamma talk, or you should. And he said, Venerable Sir, the monks are difficult to admonish now, and they have qualities which make them difficult to admonish. They are impatient and do not accept instruction respectfully. And then the Buddha said, just so, Kassapa, in the past, the elder monks were forest dwellers and spoke in praise of forest dwelling. They were alms food eaters and spoke in praise of eating alms food. They were rag robe wearers and spoke in praise of wearing rag robes. They were triple robe users and spoke in praise of using the triple robe. They were of few wishes and spoke in praise of fewness of wishes. They were content and spoke in praise of contentment. They were secluded and spoke in praise of solitude. They were aloof from society and spoke in praise of aloofness from society. They were energetic and spoke in praise of arousing energy. I'll stop here for a moment. So the Buddha also agreed with him. The Buddha said, formerly the monks were forest dwellers and alms food eaters and robe wearers, etc., and praised these practices. Then the Buddha continued. Then when a monk was a forest dweller and spoke in praise of forest dwelling, when he was alms food eater and spoke of alms food practice, when he was energetic and spoke in praise of arousing energy, etc., the elder monks would invite him to a seat, saying, "Come, monk, what is this monk's name? This is an excellent monk. This monk is keen on training. Come, monk, here's a seat, sit down." Then it would occur to the newly ordained monks. It seems that when a monk is a forest dweller and speaks in praise of forest dwelling, when he is an alms food eater and speaks in praise of eating alms food, when he is energetic and speaks in praise of arousing energy, etc., the elder monks invite him to a seat and praise him. They would practice accordingly, and that would lead to their welfare and happiness for a long time. But now, Kassapa, the elder monks are no longer forest dwellers and do not speak in praise of forest dwelling. They are no longer alms food eaters and do not speak in praise of eating alms food, etc. They are no longer energetic and do not speak in praise of arousing energy. Now it is the monk who is well known and famous, one who gains robes, alms food, lodgings, and medicinal requisites, that the elder monks invite to a seat, saying, "Come, monk, what is this monk's name? This is an excellent monk. This monk is keen on the company of his brothers in the holy life. Come, monk, here's a seat, sit down." Then it occurs to the newly ordained monks. It seems that when a monk is well known and famous, one who gains robes, alms food, lodgings, and medicines, the elder monks invite him to a seat and praise him. And they practice accordingly, and that leads to their harm and suffering for a long time. If Kassapa, one speaking rightly, could say, "Those leading the holy life have been ruined by those who lead the holy life. Those leading the holy life have been vanquished by those who lead the holy life." It is just thus that one could rightly say this. You see at the end, actually the book here, they write, "Those leading the holy life have been ruined by the ruination of those who lead the holy life. Those leading the holy life have been vanquished by the vanquishing of those who lead the holy life." But I think this is wrong, because there are other suttas which show that the decline of the sasana is due to the monks themselves. The monks themselves, by showing bad example and writing new sutras that never existed before and all this thing. Later you'll see under this Sangyutta, the Buddha talked about the false Dhamma that would appear. All this. So it is the monks who bring down the sasana. And it is also the monks who bring up the sasana. So good monks will bring up the sasana. Evil monks will cause the sasana to decline. Over the span of 2,500 years since the Buddha lived until now, some of our suttas, the discourses, have disappeared. But there are some which are found in Theravada, which are not in Mahayana, and there are some, a small amount, which are found in Mahayana but not found in Theravada. And there's one sutra, seems to be one of the old sutras, which says that the king of the beasts, the lion, is eaten by the worms or whatnot on his body, meaning to say that our sasana, our Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, the sasana is ruined by the monks themselves, those who wear the robes, and their behavior is not like the people who are supposed to wear the robes. So here the Buddha is saying that because here in the first part of the sutta, the Buddha is saying formerly the monks were ascetic monks, they were forest dwellers, alms food eaters and all that. But nowadays they are greedy. Instead of praising the ascetic monks, they praise the monks who are famous and get a lot of offerings, and they want to know the monk's name and offer him a seat and all that. And then the younger monks, when they see this, the elder monks respect a famous monk, they will also practice accordingly and want to become famous. So nowadays you can see many monks are like that. Very few monks will want to live in the forest and practice the ascetic practices. So it's very good if more forest monasteries form for monks to practice according to original Buddhism. 16.9 at Savatthi, the Buddha said, "Monks, to whatever extent I wish, secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, I enter and dwell in the first jhana, which is accompanied by thought." Here it says accompanied by thought and examination. Actually it should be accompanied by thought directed and sustained, with rapture and happiness born of seclusion. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, enters and dwells in the first jhana. Monks, to whatever extent I wish, with the subsiding of thought directed and sustained, I enter and dwell in the second jhana, which has internal confidence and unification of mind, is without thought directed and sustained, and has delight and happiness born of concentration, piti and sukha. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, with the subsiding of thought directed and sustained, enters and dwells in the second jhana. Monks, to whatever extent I wish, with the fading away as well of delight, I dwell equanimous and mindful and clearly comprehending. I experience happiness with the body. I enter and dwell in the third jhana, of which the noble ones declare, he is equanimous, mindful, one who dwells happily. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, enters and dwells in the third jhana. Monks, to whatever extent I wish, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous passing away of joy and displeasure, I enter and dwell in the fourth jhana, which is neither painful nor pleasant, and includes the purification of mindfulness by equanimity. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, enters and dwells in the fourth jhana. Let's stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying, whenever he wishes, he can enter any one of the four rupa jhanas, states of meditative absorption. And he says, Kassapa is also like him. Whenever Kassapa wants, Kassapa also can enter any of the four rupa jhanas, form jhanas. The Buddha continued, monks, to whatever extent I wish, with the complete transcendence of perceptions of forms, with the passing away of perceptions of sensory impingement, with non-attention to perceptions of diversity, aware that space is infinite, I enter and dwell in the base of the infinity of space. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, enters and dwells in the base of the infinity of space. Stop here for a moment. Here now the Buddha is saying that he can enter the first arupa jhana, which is called the base of boundless space. In this state, the mind opens up and becomes like boundless space. And you see the description here is interesting. It says to attain this state of arupa jhana, he has to have the complete transcendence of perceptions of forms. That means no more paying attention to forms. With the passing away of perceptions of sensory impingement, that means there's no more sensory impingement. The five senses, he does not. There is no more. He's no more aware of the five senses. With non-attention to perceptions of diversity, and then he enters that base of the boundless space. So sometimes some meditation teachers say that when you enter the rupa jhanas, the five senses close. Actually, you look at the definition here of the base of boundless space. It is only in arupa jhana. In arupa jhana only the five senses close. The seeing consciousness, hearing, smell, taste and touch only closes at the arupa jhana, base of boundless space. And then the Buddha continued, monks, to whatever extent I wish, by completely transcending the base of the infinity of space, aware that consciousness is infinite, I enter and dwell in the base of the infinity of consciousness. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, enters and dwells in the base of the infinity of consciousness. Monks, to whatever extent I wish, by completely transcending the base of the infinity of consciousness, aware that there is nothing, I enter and dwell in the base of nothingness. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, enters and dwells in the base of nothingness. Monks, to whatever extent I wish, by completely transcending the base of nothingness, I enter and dwell in the base of neither perception nor non-perception. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, enters and dwells in the base of neither perception nor non-perception. Monks, to whatever extent I wish, by completely transcending the base of neither perception nor non-perception, I enter and dwell in the cessation of perception and feeling. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, enters and dwells in the cessation of perception and feeling. I'll stop here for a moment. So now here, all the four arupa jhanas, the Buddha says, anytime he wants to, he can enter any of the arupa jhanas, states of formless meditative absorption. Formless meaning the object is no more form, not bounded by forms. The mind opens up. And then even the last one, cessation of perception and feeling. When perception and feeling ceases, consciousness also ceases, because perception and feeling always comes with consciousness. So when a person enters this state of cessation of perception and feeling, all the six senses stop. It's an extremely high state. If a monk can enter this state, I think it's written somewhere, when he comes out of it, he becomes either an anagamin or an arahant, because he realizes that the whole world is only within the six senses, six sense consciousness, like a dream like that. Monks, to whatever extent I wish, I wield the various kinds of psychic power. Having been one, I become many. Having been many, I become one. Stop here a moment. That means the body, one body can multiply into many bodies, and many bodies can come back to one. I appear and vanish. I go unhindered through a wall, through a rampart, through a mountain as though through space. I dive in and out of the earth as though it were water. I walk on water without sinking as though it were earth. Stop here for a moment. This is what Jesus Christ also can do. In the Bible, it's stated that Jesus Christ walked on the water. So Jesus Christ also was a great meditator. Seated cross-legged, I travel in space like a bird. With my hand, I touch and stroke the moon and sun, so powerful and mighty. I exercise mastery with the body as far as the Brahma world. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, wields the various kinds of psychic power. Here it says, exercise mastery with the body as far as the Brahma world, means that the physical human body, the flesh body, can fly as far as the Brahma world, as a maximum. Monks, to whatever this just now what I just read just now, the various types of psychic power, they are called this psychokinesis. Monks, to whatever extent I wish, with the divine ear element, it is purified and surpasses the human. I hear both kinds of sounds, the divine and human, those that are far as well as near. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, with the divine ear element, which is purified and surpasses the human, he hears both kinds of sounds. Monks, to whatever extent I wish, I understand the minds of other beings and persons, having encompassed them with my own mind. I understand a mind with lust as a mind with lust, a mind without lust as a mind without lust, a mind with hatred as a mind with hatred, a mind without hatred as a mind without hatred, a mind with delusion as a mind with delusion, a mind without delusion as a mind without delusion, a contracted mind as contracted, and a distracted mind as distracted, an exalted mind as exalted, and an unexalted mind as unexalted, a surpassable mind as surpassable, and an unsurpassable mind as unsurpassable, a concentrated mind as concentrated, and an unconcentrated mind as unconcentrated, a liberated mind as liberated, and an unliberated mind as unliberated. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, understands the minds of other beings and persons, having encompassed them with his own mind. Stop here for a moment. So, in addition to the various kinds of psychic power, the Buddha says, he and similarly Kassapa, they have the heavenly ear can listen to the sounds of humans and as well as spirits, heavenly beings or ghosts and all that. And also he can read other beings' minds, can encompass their minds and know what other beings are thinking. Monks, to whatever extent I wish, I recollect my manifold past abodes, that is, 1 birth, 2 births, 3 births, 4 births, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 100,000, 100,000 births, many aeons of world contraction, many aeons of world expansion, many aeons of world contraction and expansion thus. There I was so named, of such a clan, with such an appearance, such was my food, such my experience of pleasure and pain, such was my lifespan. Passing away from there, I was reborn elsewhere, and there too I was so named, of such a clan, with such an appearance, such was my food, such my experience of pleasure and pain, such my lifespan. Passing away from there, I was reborn here. Thus I recollect my manifold past abodes with their modes and details. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, recollects his manifold past abodes with their modes and details. Monks, to whatever extent I wish, with the divine eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, I see beings passing away and being reborn, inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate, and I understand how beings fare on according to their karma thus. These beings who engage in misconduct of body, speech and mind, who reviled the noble ones, Aryans, held wrong view and undertook actions based on wrong view, with the breakup of the body after death, have been reborn in a state of misery, in a bad destination, in the nether world, in hell. But these beings who engage in good conduct of body, speech and mind, who did not revile the noble ones, who held right view and undertook action based on right view, with the breakup of the body after death, have been reborn in a good destination in the heavenly world. Thus, with the divine eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, I see beings passing away and being reborn, inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate, and I understand how beings fare on according to their karma. Kassapa too, to whatever extent he wishes, with the divine eye which is purified and surpasses the human, sees beings passing away and being reborn, inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate, and he understands how beings fare on according to their karma. Monks, by the destruction of the asavas, in this very life I enter and dwell in the taintless liberation of mind, liberation by wisdom, realizing it for myself with direct knowledge. Kassapa too, by the destruction of the asavas, in this very life enters and dwells in the taintless liberation by mind, liberation by wisdom, realizing it for himself with direct knowledge. That's the end of the sutta. So here you see, the Buddha is praising the Venerable Kassapa so much. See that practically all the attainments that the Buddha has, Venerable Kassapa also has. So he's one of the few monks that the Buddha praised so much.